Welcome to the Northgate Growth Journey, hosted by Northgate Global and proudly sponsored by CA Jail Outreach. This podcast was written and produced by our own CEO, David. My name's Dan, and I am part of the digital team here at Northgate Global. Our mission is to reach anyone who desires to join the Northgate Growth Journey. We are here to support leadership, character development, and generational transformation. As David, our CEO, emphasized in our training, to have a global impact, we must focus on three core pillars. Have a Nicodemus effect, John 3, verse 1 to 2. Produce a cup of need, John 4, verse 6 to 7. And get sheared, James 1, verse 22. With that, we hand the floor over to our CEO, David, and the podcast team for the upcoming podcast. We have a saying here: we don't say goodbye, we say, until the trumpet blows. In the meantime, let's push forward until he comes. God bless you.
Imagine being a king. You know, you have absolute, just unquestioned authority.
Right.
And unlimited wealth at your disposal.
Then you can do whatever you want.
Exactly. And you have this burning righteous desire to fix your nation's broken infrastructure. Specifically, the temple, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it sets in ruins.
Yeah.
So you give the royal decree, you order the repairs to begin immediately, and then, 23 years go by.
Which is just wild to think about.
It's crazy. 23 years, and absolutely nothing has happened. Not a single stone has been moved.
Wow.
So today, we're looking at why good intentions, even, royal, well-funded ones, are just functionally useless without systems.
It's a really harsh reality check.
Right.
We tend to think that if our heart is in the right place, the execution will just naturally follow.
Right.
But as we're going to see today, relying on intentions without accountability, it's a recipe for a 23-year delay in your own life.
It really is. Well, welcome to the Deep Dive. We are your hosts from the Northgate Global Digital Community team, and we are unpacking some incredibly heavy, challenging concepts today.
We really are.
But before we get into the weeds, I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge our proud sponsor, CA Jail Outreach.
Oh, absolutely.
This outreach is the very heartbeat of the organization. They are out there on the front lines doing this grueling, necessary work of helping people who have loved ones navigating the jail system.
Yeah, it's such a complex and honestly a heartbreaking environment a lot of the time.
It is. And the work they do to provide support and clarity is just phenomenal.
It really is the practical application of everything we talk about here. They're out there doing the work, not just theorizing about it.
Exactly. And that actually brings us right to our mission for today's deep dive. We're exploring the core of David Hira's writings, and our goal is to extract the absolute most important nuggets of knowledge regarding spiritual alignment, raw integrity, and, what true leadership actually looks like when you strip away all the modern fluff.
Yeah, getting right down to the foundation.
Right. Now, I do have a crucial piece of housekeeping right up front. David's writings on this specific topic are incredibly dense.
Very dense, yeah.
So, because we cannot cover every single detail of this 2-hour teaching during the deep dive today, an extended version of the teaching is available as a downloadable PDF on YouTube.
You're definitely going to want to check that out.
Oh, for sure. You can find it in the course section right next to the deep dive description, so make sure you grab that to see the full picture.
Yeah, it's a must-read, honestly, largely because David's writings, they cut against the grain of almost everything we're taught in modern religious circles.
They really do.
We live in this world of total information overload, right? Where faith is so often reduced to this exhausting, complex checklist.
Oh, the checklist.
Yeah, it's about, how many chapters you read, how many events you attend.
What you wear.
What you post online.
Yeah.
It's a really heavy legalistic burden. And David just cuts right through that noise.
He does.
He simplifies what it actually means to walk out your faith with uncompromising standards, completely abandoning that whole checklist mentality.
I want to dig into that shift away from the checklist because it's so easy to fall into that trap of metrics, right? Like measuring our spirituality.
Oh, yeah, we all do it.
And to dismantle this, David's writings take us straight to Matthew 22, verse 37 through 40.
Mm-hmm.
Set the stage for us here because the context of this confrontation is everything. Jesus isn't just, giving a philosophical lecture on a hill.
Yeah, no.
He's being actively tested by these religious experts.
Precisely. He's dealing with the Pharisees and the Sadducees, and these are individuals who had literally cataloged hundreds of specific mechanical laws.
Hundreds of them.
Yeah, they were obsessed with precision. So they bring this dense legalism to Jesus and essentially ask him to, rank their checklist.
Right, like what's number one?
Exactly. They say, which is the greatest commandment in the law? And Jesus does something radical here. He doesn't play their game at all.
Yeah.
He just sweeps away the entire dense legalistic framework and establishes two unassailable pillars.
Just two.
Just two. He says to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbor as yourself.
Wow.
And then he states that on these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets.
It's such a brilliant distillation. He essentially says, you're so focused on the microscopic details of the law that you've missed the entire structural foundation of the whole thing.
Exactly. You missed the point entirely.
But the way David's writing synthesized this is what really caught my attention. He doesn't just treat them as two separate rules on a new, shorter checklist.
No, he doesn't.
He treats them as intersecting axes.
Yes, the vertical and the horizontal. It is such a crucial framework to understand. Loving God is what David defines as the vertical surrender.
Vertical surrender. I like that term.
All right. It's anchoring your heart, your mind, and your soul entirely in Him.
Well,
practically speaking, this is the definitive shift from self-reliance, which is our human default setting, right?
Absolutely. We want to fix it ourselves.
Always. But it's shifting from that to total trust. That vertical alignment has to be established first. But the thing is, it cannot exist in a vacuum.
Right.
The second pillar, loving others, is the horizontal impact.
Okay, that dynamic, it reminds me of a massive construction crane.
Oh, okay.
Like if you've ever watched a high-rise being built downtown, the vertical tower of the crane, it has to be anchored incredibly deep into the bedrock.
Right, it has to be stable.
It has to be perfectly plumb, perfectly aligned, and that is the vertical surrender. If that tower is crooked or, superficially anchored, the moment you put any weight on it, the whole structure collapses.
It just snaps.
Yeah. But here is the kicker, right? A crane doesn't exist just to stand there pointing at the sky looking impressive.
Right.
It has that massive horizontal arm designed to reach out to lift heavy burdens and actually build something.
That's good.
The vertical is anchored specifically so the horizontal can reach out and lift others.
That analogy hits the nail on the head. Because the vertical provides the structural integrity for the horizontal work.
Yeah.
And David's writings make this point unequivocally clear. You cannot claim to love an invisible God while ignoring the practical, the physical and emotional needs of the people right next to you.
You just can't.
No. If your horizontal arm isn't lifting anything, if there's no service, no compassion, no integrity in how you treat your neighbor, then your vertical anchor is fundamentally an illusion.
Because it's easy to fake the vertical, isn't it?
Oh, so easy.
You can sing loud in a service, you can say the right theological phrases, you can look very pious, but that horizontal impact, that's the actual proof of concept.
Exactly. The horizontal impact proves the vertical surrender is real. But, this raises a very difficult practical issue.
Okay.
Reaching out horizontally requires strength. It requires stability. How do we reach out horizontally and lift others when so many of us are walking around carrying deep, unhealed wounds?
That's a great question.
Because if the crane's arm is fractured, it can't lift anything.
Right. It's going to break under the strain, which means before we can be effective horizontally, we have to fundamentally alter how we view our own past and our own trauma.
Yes. And this is where David's writings introduce a profound psychological and spiritual shift. And he pulls this directly from Jeremiah 1 verse 5 and Jeremiah 29 verse 11.
Okay, let's unpack that.
The instruction he extracts here is blunt. He says, stop staring at where you were broken and start looking at where you healed.
Stop staring at the break. Because focusing on the wound keeps you trapped in the trauma, right?
Exactly.
Whereas focusing on the scar proves you survived it. It shifts your identity from a victim to a survivor.
Yes, and that is a massive paradigm shift. We have this really dangerous modern tendency to let our past failures or our traumas or the things done to us, to let all of that dictate our future identity.
Oh, all the time.
We build monuments to our defeats. We introduce ourselves by our brokenness. But Jeremiah 1 verse 5 says that God formed us and sanctified us before birth.
Before birth.
Right. And then Jeremiah 29 verse 11 confirms He has thoughts of peace toward us, to give us an expected end. So scars aren't monuments to defeat.
No.
They are physical proof that grace intervened and kept you alive.
Wow.
When you anchor your identity in that pre-birth sanctification, your past trauma completely loses its authority to name you.
That is powerful. But, processing that trauma and actually shifting that identity, that requires a very specific environment.
It really does.
You can't just flip a switch in a crowded room with a bunch of people watching you. And this is where David introduces what he calls the Nicodemus effect.
Yeah.
And this is straight out of John chapter 3, right?
Yes, and this is one of the most vital and, frankly, countercultural insights in the entire text. In John chapter 3, Nicodemus is a prominent religious ruler. He's a Pharisee.
Highly visible guy.
Extremely visible. And he comes to Jesus to ask real, searching questions, but he does it at night.
Right, under the cover of darkness.
Yes. He had to avoid the public religious scrutiny and the crushing expectations of his peers. He couldn't be vulnerable in the daylight without risking his entire social and religious status.
And the beautiful part is that Jesus didn't shame him for it.
No, he didn't.
He didn't say, well, if you won't acknowledge me in the town square at high noon, I have no time for you. He welcomed him in the dark.
Precisely. Jesus gave him a safe, confidential space to explore the truth. He met him exactly where his fear allowed him to go. And David applies this directly to us today.
Okay.
He argues that we must intentionally create those same safe, confidential, judgment-free spaces, which is the Nicodemus effect, for people who are seeking.
Especially considering the demographic we mentioned earlier with CA jail outreach.
Absolutely.
Whether someone is navigating the complexities of the jail system, or maybe they're returning from military deployments overseas, or they're just quietly drowning in a need for family restoration.
Right. Heavy stuff.
They need a place to explore the gospel and heal without a massive spotlight blinding them.
Yes, they do.
But let me challenge this for a second, because this goes against everything our current culture demands.
Oh, completely.
We live in an era of hypervisibility. Social media thrives on, trauma dumping.
Oh, yeah. Everything is out there.
Everything. We expect public declarations of every struggle, every step of therapy, every spiritual milestone. So isn't it almost countercultural or even rebellious to intentionally allow people to heal in the shadows first? Aren't we supposed to be living out loud?
It is absolutely rebellious, and that is precisely why it works. It's effective. The demand for hypervisibility is toxic to early-stage healing.
Toxic, wow.
It really is. When someone is genuinely broken, especially coming out of severe high-stakes circumstances like incarceration or combat, putting them under the harsh lights of public religious scrutiny doesn't heal them.
It just exposes them.
It traumatizes them further. It forces them to perform a checklist of acceptable righteousness before they have even grasped the concept of grace.
Back to the checklist.
Exactly. The Nicodemus effect is about providing sanctuary. It communicates, you can come here with your questions, your profound doubts, your ugliest scars in the quiet of the night, and you will not be a spectacle.
You will not be a spectacle. I love that.
Genuine healing requires safety long before it requires an audience.
Safety before an audience. That is a completely different paradigm for community than what we're used to.
It is.
Now, to actually facilitate this quiet, profound healing in those safe spaces, we use the ultimate tool, right? The word.
Yes.
But David's writings severely challenge how we interact with it, systematically stripping away the religious superstitions we've attached to the physical Bible itself.
And this is where a lot of people might feel a bit of theological whiplash.
Oh, for sure.
The core information David presents is that the Bible gets its holiness 100% from Jesus Christ.
Right.
It does not get its holiness from the paper it's printed on, the leather binding, the gold leaf edges, or the pixels on your smartphone screen.
Right. We tend to idolize the container and completely forget the cargo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The physical book is just a delivery system. The living person of Jesus is the actual cargo.
Yeah.
And when you fetishize the physical object, you entirely miss the transformational power of the message it carries.
So if we stop treating the physical book like a magical talisman, how does David suggest we interact with the actual message so that it, changes us?
He breaks this down into a brilliant metric. He calls it the 80-100-300 scripture progression.
80-100-300. Okay.
Yeah. It's a way of understanding the varying depths of how we engage with truth. So if you analyze the text, there are over 80 scriptures that command us to focus on reading and searching the word.
Okay, so that first tier, the 80, is just about data acquisition, informing the mind.
Right. You read it to get the raw data into your line of sight. It is foundational, it's necessary, but it's just the beginning.
Just the beginning. Okay.
And then you move to the next tier. There are over 100 scriptures that focus on memorizing and meditating on the word. This is the shift from the eyes to the heart. You aren't just reading it anymore, you are internalizing it.
Right.
It transforms your inner thoughts and acts as an internal defense system against your old destructive habits.
Okay, so we've got 80 to inform the mind and 100 to transform the inner thoughts. But neither of those actually change the world around you yet, do they?
No, they don't. Which brings us to the pinnacle. The absolute heaviest weight in the scripture progression. There are over 300 scriptures that focus strictly on living and obeying the word.
300.
300. This is about conforming our actions to Christ.
Yeah.
This is the 300 level. Because if you read it and you memorize it, even in the original Greek,
Right.
but you don't actually obey it, the progression is completely broken.
It stalls out.
Yes. The 300 level is the only place where that horizontal impact we discussed earlier actually materializes.
And because the 300 level, the obedience and the action, because that is the ultimate goal, David introduces a standard for attending church that is honestly shocking to a lot of people.
Oh, it really shakes people up.
He argues that to truly reach that 300 level during a service, you need to leave your physical Bibles and your phones in the car.
Yeah, and like you said, it causes a lot of anxiety when people first hear that.
Well, yeah, going into a church service without a Bible feels like showing up to a final exam without a pencil.
Exactly.
We are conditioned to always have our sword open on our laps, right? It sounds almost rebellious to leave it behind. But the underlying logic is fascinating because it forces a completely different type of engagement, doesn't it?
It entirely changes your posture. Think about why we gather in the first place. We go to hear a living, active message from God, delivered in real time by a speaker. But what is actually happening in the pews? We are looking down.
Always looking down.
We're staring at highlighted notes we made 5 years ago. We are getting derailed by a digital notification that pops up on our Bible app.
All the time.
Or we are furiously trying to fill in the blanks on a printed handout.
Yes. It becomes an academic exercise instead of a spiritual one. You end up missing 3 profound sentences of the sermon because you leaned over to ask your neighbor if sanctification is spelled with a C or a K.
Exactly. Your head is buried in the container, and you are entirely missing the living cargo being delivered from the pulpit.
Wow.
So David's standard says, remove the crutch. Remove the container during the service. Sit there, look up, make eye contact, and let the spoken word hit you directly at that 300 level.
Just receive it.
Exactly. When you aren't distracted by managing paper or pixels, the word bypasses the academic filter and gets inside you in a way that demands immediate action.
So once that word actually penetrates at the 300 level, you can no longer sit comfortably in the pew.
No, you can't.
The natural byproduct of true obedience is motion. Faith demands movement.
Yes.
Which transitions us perfectly into one of the most dynamic concepts in David's writings, which is taking your faith to the streets.
This is the death of passive religion.
The death of passive religion.
Okay. There is a deeply ingrained, toxic idea in many spiritual circles that being faithful means just sitting back, waiting for a profound feeling or a sign in the clouds or a perfectly open door before you do anything.
Right, like God will just push me when he's ready.
Exactly. But David completely shatters this paralyzing theology by introducing the Red Sea rule.
And this is based on Exodus 14, verse 15, right?
Yes. The context here is literally life or death. The Israelites are trapped. The Red Sea is an impassable barrier in front of them, and Pharaoh's elite Egyptian army is charging down on them from behind.
So they're boxed in.
Completely. And Moses does what almost any of us would do in a crisis. He falls to his knees and cries out to God in an absolute panic. He starts having a prayer meeting.
It is a brutal reality check because we often disguise our fear as intense prayer.
Oh, that's so true.
We think if we just cry loud enough and pray long enough, we don't have to take the terrifying step into the chaotic water. But God's response to Moses is shocking here.
It is. God essentially interrupts the prayer meeting.
Yeah.
He doesn't say, sit there, Moses, and wait for a warm feeling of peace in your heart. He says, wherefore criest thou unto me? Speak unto the children of Israel, that they go forward.
Go forward.
Immediate action over passive waiting. God is saying, I already gave you the direction, now you have to provide the physical motion.
Provide the motion. And this is where David introduces the concept of push. And to be clear, that stands for pray until something happens. But David defines it entirely differently than the cliche we've all heard.
Right, very differently.
It is not a passive acronym where you just sit in a rocking chair hoping for the best.
Not at all. It represents raw, gritty endurance. You absolutely pray, you humble yourself, and you seek the Lord's direction. But your faith does not stay on the floor. You get off your knees and you take your faith to the streets. You engage the obstacle. You push forward.
It's like trying to steer a parked car.
Oh, I like that.
You can sit in the driver's seat and turn the steering wheel left and right all day long. You can pray for direction for hours. But the Holy Spirit cannot actually guide your steps until you press the gas pedal, put the car in drive, and give him some momentum to direct.
Yes.
You have to be in motion to be steered.
The Holy Spirit directs moving objects. When you engage in this kind of push, you are operating in a dynamic rhythm between intercession and physical action.
It's a rhythm.
Yeah. You pray for the strategy, and then you step onto the battlefield. You don't retreat back to the prayer closet the second there is a delay or a hardship.
Yeah.
You keep pushing, you keep working that horizontal impact until God moves the obstacle.
Okay, so we are in motion. We are taking action, pushing through our obstacles, and we are actively trying to build something new, whether that is, restoring a family, building a business with integrity, or supporting an outreach. But if we are out there building, what is the standard for the builder? Because clearly, as we've seen, good intentions aren't enough. So for the ultimate blueprint on execution, David's writings point us to Noah.
The Noah standards. This section is a masterclass in execution, in discipline, and uncompromising integrity.
Okay, lay it out for us.
Well, when you strip away the cartoonish Sunday school versions of the story and look at the raw facts of Genesis, Noah's assignment was staggering.
It really was.
He built a massive, multi-deck ark without a designated geographical location.
He didn't even have a place to put it.
Right. He didn't have prime waterfront real estate. He was just given a complex structural blueprint and a hard, uncompromising time frame of 120 years.
But the detail that David highlights here, the one that completely disrupts how we view modern ministry, is that Noah was never commanded to preach verbal sermons.
That fact alone dismantles so much of our modern religious ego.
It does.
Today, everyone wants a microphone. Everyone is obsessed with building a digital platform, getting followers, and being heard.
Gotta have an audience.
Right. But God never told Noah to go argue theology with his neighbors or hand out tracts or hold public rallies. His daily, uncompromising, grueling labor was his preaching.
Wow.
Every single swing of the hammer was a sermon to a dying world.
So if Noah's hammer was his sermon, how does just building translate to modern leaders? Because today, leaders have to raise funds, they have to answer to boards and navigate public relations.
Yep.
Doesn't completely ignoring the crowd to, quote-unquote, just build sound a bit disconnected from reality?
It sounds disconnected only if you're seeking human validation. We are so obsessed with getting the culture's permission to do what God told us to do. Noah didn't ask a corrupt culture for a building permit. He just executed the blueprint.
Just executed.
And David extracts 3 uncompromised Noah standards that explain exactly how a modern leader must operate if they want their work to survive the flood.
Let's break those down. What is the first standard?
Standard 1, never steal the wood.
Never steal the wood.
Right. When God provides resources for the vision, whether that is donor money, volunteer time, or organizational assets, you never mismanage them for personal gain.
So no skimming.
Exactly. Noah didn't skim a little extra gopher wood off the top to build a nice vacation cabin for his family. The resources are strictly for the ark.
That cuts right to the heart of financial integrity.
It really does.
And what's the second standard?
Standard 2 is no secret corruption.
Okay.
Your private integrity must match your public execution. You cannot build a structurally sound vessel publicly if you are rotting from moral compromise privately. The ark has to be pitched inside and out.
Inside and out, yeah. And the third standard is about the blueprint itself, right?
Exactly. Obey the blueprint, exactly. You don't alter the dimensions, you don't change the materials, or add a second window just because the surrounding culture thinks your boat looks weird.
Right, you don't take a poll on what the ark should look like.
No. You don't adapt the theology to make it more palatable to the crowd.
That is a relentless level of integrity. And what I appreciate about David's writings is that he doesn't just leave these as ancient historical concepts. He translates these Noah standards into highly practical, modern grind standards for leaders operating today.
He does. And these grind standards are heavy because they demand real sacrifice.
Tell us about the first one.
The first grind standard is the double down rule.
Okay.
In the corporate world, or even in a lot of nonprofits, when an organization funds a project, a weak leader tries to figure out how to minimize their personal effort while maximizing their personal comfort. They just draw a paycheck.
They just want to clock in and clock out.
Right. But a true leader doubles down.
Meaning they put their own skin in the game.
Precisely. If the organization puts in resources, a true leader adds their own personal resources, their own time, their own money to it.
Wow.
They work twice as hard as anyone else because they personally deeply invested in the outcome. They aren't just managing a project, they are carrying a burden.
You cannot lead effectively from a place of zero personal risk. If it doesn't cost you anything, you aren't leading, you're just administrating.
That's a great way to put it.
Now, the second grind standard tackles a very specific, widespread issue in leadership today.
Yes, the clean card standard. This addresses a massive point of silent corruption in modern leadership, particularly in faith-based organizations.
It's rampant.
The standard is this: don't bleed the church or the outreach dry by using their organizational credit card for your personal travel, your meals, or to fund your outside speaking engagements.
Which happens constantly. Leaders justify it by saying, well, I'm representing the organization, so that they should cover my first-class flight and my steak dinner. It's a psychology of entitlement.
It is absolute entitlement. But David's standard says you operate like Noah. You use your own card for those things.
Your own card.
You pay your own way, take the personal financial risk, and you reimburse yourself strictly and only from the direct donations, honorariums, or product sales you generate from those specific engagements.
That is clean.
You keep the organization's ledger completely clean, protected, and beyond reproach.
Because if you are secretly skimming from the organization's resources to elevate your own lifestyle, your entire vertical surrender is a lie.
It's a complete lie.
Good intentions to build something mean absolutely nothing if you lack that raw integrity. Which brings us full circle to the story we started with at the top of the deep dive. The king who had the right idea, but the completely wrong execution.
King Jehoash from 2 Kings 12.
Yes.
This is the ultimate case study in why noble intentions are useless without transparent systems.
Yeah.
Jehoash was a king who actually did right in the eyes of the Lord, but David points out a fatal flaw in his foundation. Jehoash had borrowed faith.
Borrowed faith. What does that mean practically?
It means his spiritual scaffolding belonged to someone else.
Oh.
He only did the right things while his mentor, the high priest Jehoiada, was alive and actively instructing him.
I see.
Jehoash had no internal vertical anchor of his own. He was just mirroring the convictions of his mentor. So when Jehoiada eventually died, the foundation of Jehoash's leadership immediately cracked.
And we see the practical fallout of that borrowed faith and how he handled the temple repairs.
Exactly. The temple is physically broken down. Jehoash looks at it and has a great intention.
Right.
He issues a royal command to the priests. He says, take the dedicated money that the people bring in and go repair the breaches in the house. He gives the order, and then he assumes the work is being done.
And what happens?
23 years go by, and the priests haven't repaired a single breach.
We talked about this at the beginning. How does a royal decree get ignored for over 2 decades? It is because human nature, without accountability, will always default to self-interest.
Always.
The priests were collecting the money, but because there was no system tracking it, they just pocketed it.
Exactly right. Good intentions without systems fail every single time. Jehoash commanded an outcome, but he failed to establish a system of accountability to ensure the outcome. The money just disappeared into the shadows of administration.
So after 23 years of failure, how did they finally get the temple repaired?
By prioritizing systems over intentions, they completely changed the logistics. Jehoiada the priest took a chest, bored a hole in the lid of it, and placed it right next to the altar.
Next to the altar, in public view.
Yes, right out in the open. When the people brought their money, it bypassed the priest's pockets and went straight into the chest.
It made the finances visible.
Yes, and it went further. When the chest was full, the king's scribe and the high priest would come together, publicly open it, count the money together to ensure mutual accountability, put it in bags, and hand it directly to the workmen, the carpenters and builders who were actually doing the labor.
By putting the chest out in the open, they removed the shadows.
They did.
Transparency drives repair. When you take the logistics out of the dark and put them in the light, the work finally gets done. You can't run a vehicle on just the spark of a good intention. You need the engine of a transparent system.
And what's fascinating here is how David ties this historical account back to the concept of true leadership.
Okay.
We have this warped, modern idea that leadership is about gathering a massive crowd of followers who do whatever we say, emulate our style, and walk exactly in our footsteps.
Right, building a fan base.
It's often just ego disguised as discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
But David points to Proverbs 27, verse 17. iron sharpeneth iron. So a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend.
So true leadership isn't about creating clones of yourself.
Not at all. David's standard is that true leadership is fundamentally about equipping others to forge their own footsteps. Is empowering them to develop their own vertical surrender to God, to generate their own horizontal impact in their communities, to push through their own Red Sea, and to build their own ark. You aren't building a cult of personality. You are building capable, uncompromising, independent builders.
That flips the entire modern leadership model upside down. The goal isn't retaining followers. The goal is releasing builders.
Exactly.
If your followers can't function when you aren't in the room, you haven't led them. You've just tethered them to your own borrowed faith. Exactly like Jehoiada and Jehoash.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of everything we've explored today, from the Great Commandment to healing and the Nicodemus effect, to the 300-level obedience, and finally to building with Noah's raw integrity, it all demands a tangible response from the listener.
It does.
This isn't just theory.
It demands action. We've covered a massive amount of ground today, extracting these profound insights directly from David's writings. As we wrap up this deep dive, I know you have a final thought, a challenge really, to leave with our audience.
I do. I want you to mull this over as you go about your week.
Yeah.
We just talked about how transparency and systems drove the repair of Jehoash's temple. I want you to apply that personally. What area of your own life, maybe your finances, your habits, or a broken relationship, has stalled for years simply because you've kept the logistics in the dark?
Wow.
What would happen if you stopped relying on your own good intentions and actually built a transparent, accountable system for your personal habits this week? Put a chest by the altar of your own life and see what gets repaired.
Stop relying on good intentions and build a transparent system. That is an incredibly practical challenge. Well, a huge thank you to everyone joining us for this deep dive. We want to extend our deepest gratitude to our sponsor, CA Jail Outreach, for their incredible, heart-driven work on the front lines.
Thank you, guys.
And of course, a huge thank you to our amazing team, the Northgate Global Digital Community Team, for making this deep dive possible.
And don't forget to utilize the links provided in the description to access that.
Thank you for being here. That was quite an introduction from the CEO and founder himself. My name is Jeremy, and I am part of the digital team here at CA Jail Outreach and Camp Growth. Our mission is to reach anyone who desires to join the growth journey, whether you have just been released, are preparing to enter the jails, or are simply seeking a path to transformation. We are here for you and committed to supporting your family. As David, our CEO, emphasized in our training, to have a global impact, we must focus on 3 core pillars. Have a Nicodemus effect. John 3 verses 1 through 2. Produce a cup of need. John 4 verses 6 through 7. Get sheared. James 1 verses 22. With that, we hand the floor over to Trinity and Steve. We have a saying here. We don't say goodbye, we say until the trumpet blows. In the meantime, let's push forward until he comes. God bless you.